Great. So first of all, I'd like to welcome everyone to today's webinar. So this is the next webinar in our masterclass series. Today, we are going to be talking about employee appraisal. So before I hand you over to our presenter today, Harry, I just have a bit of housekeeping to go through. So if it's your first time using GoToWebinar, I just wanted to run through a couple of things here. So hopefully everyone has got in and is hearing me and listening and can hear everything okay. There's a couple of ways you can connect your audio. You can either connect through the telephone and there's various numbers to dial in, or in this case, I'm sure most people are connected to their mic and speakers. So hopefully that works out. Secondly, we have time at the end for questions. So as Harry's going through the content, please post your questions within the questions pane, and we will have time at the end, and both Harry and Adam will get to those questions. And then lastly, we are recording the webinar. So if you need to leave early, or if you have a colleague that couldn't attend, don't worry. Once you're registered, you will be notified of the recording, and also the recording will be posted on our website over the next 24 to 48 hours. Okay, so that's it for me. So it's time to get stuck into the content. So I'll ask Harry if you can unmute your line, please, Harry, and take it away, please.
Thank you, David. Hi, everyone. My name is Harry McIntyre, and thank you, everyone, for joining me today. So during this webinar, we're going to be looking at the employee appraisal object, which is a new feature in Scorebody. We'll be sort of taking a look at a bit of a history of it, how it came about, why we've decided to implement this, how it can be used, and the sort of functional details of it. Taking a little look at the GROW coaching model upon which the employee appraisal object is based, and obviously how to create one and how agents are going to be able to access those once they've been created. So a quick look at the object itself. So effectively, this is a means within Scorebody of sort of capturing, recording, and for sort of agents and those creating employee appraisals, a way of recalling coaching sessions that sort of span more than just a single result. Maybe ones which have been done at a weekly, monthly, or quarterly interval, and we've now a method for you to capture and record that on the Scorebody platform. The function has been built integrating with some of the existing Scorebody functions, goals, tasks, the LMS courses, all of which are sort of natural elements of coaching sessions. And the new employee appraisal object sort of integrates and utilizes that existing functionality. The functionality is accessible to employees, supervisors, and admins, so the majority of the Scorebody user classes. And as I mentioned, it's designed around the GROW coaching model, which I'll just take a couple of slides just to take a quick look at and a quick overview of before we get into the meat of things. So the GROW coaching model was sort of introduced, conceived, and sort of introduced in the late 80s by Sir John Whitmore. And he's one of the sort of grandfathers of business coaching, certainly not the only sort of early sort of instigator and a proponent, but certainly a pioneer in the field of performance coaching. The GROW coaching model, which sort of came from him and his team, is sort of one of, if not the world's sort of premier coaching frameworks, extremely popular and extremely widespread, very particularly in the corporate world. And I suppose the reason for that is that it is very simple, but it's extremely flexible, and it's an extremely powerful tool. Coaching individuals, coaching groups and teams, and even self-coaching. You can use this framework to apply to your sort of own attempts, projects, tasks, and goals and stuff that you have. You can apply these ideas to sort of reaching the kind of goals that you are looking to achieve yourself. It's a very, very flexible tool, and it's why it's had that longevity. So GROW stands for goal, reality, options, and will. And there is a wealth of material out there. Like I said, this is a very popular methodology for coaching. There are huge swathes of information out there, but sort of at its most basic, a goal, what is it we want to do? Where do we want to be? Reality is, where do we stand now? Options, and I think this is one of the most interesting elements of the GROW model. What could we do? And it invites sort of ideation and engagement with the coachee. If money were no option, if time were no option, what could we do to move from the reality to the goal? And finally, will, the distillation of those sort of blue sky ideas we've had. What will we do? What can we commit to? What do we feel comfortable committing to? So a very simple tool, but extremely effective. Like I say, there's a wealth of material out there from Sir John Whitmore, the upholders of the GROW model today, as well as amongst the sort of corporate and business, the broader coaching community. There's an awful lot out there. So with that, we will have a look at a prepared demo we have of the Scorbody employee appraisal and how this all fits together. So the appraisal object is a relatively newly introduced function to Scorbody. And how that came about was that we had identified in discussion with our clients that there was something of a gap on the platform as regards coaching. So Scorbody allows you to record coaching sessions at the micro level, sort of as they might take place, just pertaining to a particular result. The coach coaches the agent on a result and records that has taken place and some feedback using the review function. But what we found out from clients was that whilst that takes place, there is often also, as part of a quality program, coaching sessions that sort of take a more zoomed out view. And, we'll look at quality performance at, a weekly, a monthly, a quarterly interval, and capturing the performance within that interval. And there wasn't really a great way to record and sort of engage with that process on Scorbody. Thus came about the appraisal object. So the appraisal object is available to supervisors as well as various admin type users. An admin type user will be able to access this from the staff page. The more drop down will give them access to the appraisals page. But we're logged in as a supervisor today, so we'll stick with the supervisor view. And a supervisor will always be able to access this from their dashboard, the staff coaching drop down, and then the appraisals button. So this will open the appraisals page, and here we'll see all of those appraisals which have been created for employees for whom we are the assigned supervisor. So we'll see here appraisal name, the employee being appraised, the user who created that appraisal object, as well as its status, open or complete. And from here, we can edit those details. We can delete out any appraisals which may no longer apply, and we can also create a new appraisal. We can, of course, sorry, I forget to mention, access the previous appraisals just by clicking on them. And so we'll create a new appraisal for one of our employees here. So the name defaults to the month name and then appraisal. This is completely editable if you wish it to be in some other format. We can select the employee that we'd like to create the appraisal for. And we can create a due date for it as well. So what we have found is that these kind of coaching sessions, sort of interval coaching sessions, they're sometimes happening, side by side. The coach and the coachee are sitting down, be it in person or remotely, and having discussion. They can also happen, though, and the appraisal object will support this asynchronously. So the coach is inputting some sort of coaching detail, and the agent or employee is then reviewing that and sort of adding their own comments to that. And the due date would probably be in that case where we're doing it asynchronously and we want to set a date by which the employee must have reviewed and provided their own feedback for the appraisal. So appraisal period from and to is the last thing to be set. And this is very important as this will determine what appears in the reality section of the appraisal. Reality is obviously the current situation. And what this does is pull data from Scorebody completed score data, and sort of show that as an average. So much like in the way as if you're creating a report in Scorebody, you would set a to and from date to determine which results were included in the calculation of that report. The same idea applies here. So we'll say to include the results throughout May in our reality section by setting those dates. We'll click Add Appraisal there, and the appraisal is in place. We just click the link to open it. So here we are, the appraisal page, as we've said, modeled on the GROW methodology, goal, reality, options, and will. And this is where we input the data to record our coaching session. So starting with goal, some of you may be familiar with goal already being an existing feature on Scorebody. And it's, I suppose, happy accident that it also exists as the first part of the GROW methodology. So what we actually input here will, as well as being recorded on this appraisal page, will also be recorded separately as that sort of traditional goal object within Scorebody. And we'll see how that looks for the employee that we're creating it for once we're wrapped up here, and we'll go take a look at the employee view. So the first thing that we're doing is setting a goal. So we get some sort of helper text here. This, as well as the questions, which are behind the I hover over, are from performance consultants who are the current upholders of the GROW model. There's a great deal of very useful content on their website, more questions, more descriptions of what the various elements represent. We've just some of that information here just to help people sort of get started. And for those of you, in fact, who are sort of interested in good coaching practice, which GROW doesn't replace. It supports, it provides a framework for good coaching behaviors. We do have another upcoming webinar. It's on Wednesday, the 1st of June, and that's with Monique Wintelkamp. And she'll be going through some best practice for coaching behaviors. So be sure to sign up for that one if this is an area that interests you. But we do have some helper text. We have some sample questions, that might be used to engage with the coachee. Obviously, best practice in coaching, we certainly want them to be providing at least as much, if not a good deal more, towards what we put in things like goal options and will. We really very much want it to be self-discovered. Some ideas for some questions that will help that engagement, which is the key component of good coaching, but is also the most difficult part to achieve. So we can pop our goal in here. I know certainly when I was doing coaching, quality coaching for employees, a favourite of mine was to break these goals out into short-term and long-term goals. And we can use the formatting, so various types of formatting are supported in the goal field as well as the other fields. We can change text size. We can add highlight, bullet points, indent, etc., to really make this stand out and be readable. So for Katie, we may say, and here we probably need to pop into reality. So to stress that grow is not entirely linear. As I say, the upholders of the grow model themselves state that you will sometimes bounce back and forwards between these different areas. And here, if we're looking for a long-term goal, we need to refer to her current performance under the reality section. And she's some way below our score target, which is 85. So a long-term goal for Katie will be to achieve 85% performance. Another long-term goal for her may be promotion to supervisor. She wants our job. Okay, and so then going back, short-term goals, we would hope not to have to say I'm going to hit 85%, increasing 20% over the course of a month. We're doing these at monthly intervals. We would probably be coaching her towards something a little more realistic. And, she might be looking at, improving 5% month on month. Or in fact, actually slightly better practice, 5% by next month. And then we can review that again when we're having another session. So we've got some goals in place for Katie. So we'll go and take a look at the reality section. So this is where we're pulling that score body data. So that appraisal to and from period we set there. It's what's dictating the results that are used and creating these average performance totals. So we've got Katie's, her teams, as well as the count of fail all or fail section flags and kudos points that may have been awarded or have occurred on her results. And below that, still within reality, we see the actual results themselves. So we can click here to pop up some of the comments that have been left by the evaluator. And we can, in fact, actually, if we click onto the name of the score, we'll go down to the actual full result level, seeing things like causes, overall comments, etc., etc. And we'll obviously want to be, deep diving those to get a real view of the reality. Part of what we're looking to achieve here is to, help the individual find their strengths and to expose the barriers that stand between them and the goals that they're looking to achieve. So moving down, we have Options. So this, again, for all of these, we've got some suggested questions and a brief sort of overview of what we're looking to get from this. Options is how can we get from reality to the goal. It's not what we will do. We've got the appropriately named section for that beneath that, but it's what could we do? You know, how can we get there? What steps can we take, or could we take? And it's a little bit blue sky. Obviously, as the coach, you try and keep it within the bounds of plausibility as much as possible. But you know, some of the questions that we will pose here: how would you tackle this if time wasn't a factor? And no one who works in a contact center has ever had to contend with the difficult situation of time not being a factor, I'm sure. But they're exploratory. They're to, you know, to get the coachee thinking about what they could do, and then we as the coach, you know, narrow that down into realistic options, and then finally into actions in the will. So we can options for Katie. What could she do? Well, we didn't look great in too much detail at the reality section. What is the current situation? The current situation is that she would probably have been on her 85% target if she hadn't got this fail all. We can see a fail all flag there as well. So if we pop the comments there, we can see data protection is sort of what scuppered us in the month of May. What are the options to make sure that that doesn't happen again? So options might include, you know, training, side by sides. Who knows? Whatever Katie says to us, whatever Katie thinks is going to help, and we can coach her towards that sort of realization. Something else that we can do here is to add a course, and this obviously links in with the training, which would always probably be one of the options as we're looking at most of the goals that we want to achieve. A course can be added. So if we click here, we'll get the opportunity to enroll Katie in a course. So here we're just seeing Scorbody Academy courses. These are the courses you may be familiar with that instruct on Scorbody use. But if you have our integrated LMS product, the courses that you've created for internal, you know, e-learning and learning, if you have our learning management product, those courses would be appearing here, and that would probably be a, you know, a frequently used thing when creating these appraisals would be using these as a facilitator of identifying what the employee's coaching needs and requests actually are, and being able to action them then from this one spot. So we're able to pop the user into a course here. Okay, and finally, moving on to will. So what will is the specific actions that we will take, and they come out of often our options. What could we do? Very blue sky sort of thinking. What will we do? What's realistic for us to achieve before we meet next? And what's encouraged here is to ask the coachee to sort of rate their commitment towards these on a scale of 1 to 10. And if it's less than an 8, to go back sort of through, maybe all the way back to the beginning, to sort of reinforce why we think that these, have we come to the right conclusion? Is that the right thing to be doing? Is it misunderstood by the coachee? You could come back and find that, it's been reinforced, their commitment to the idea is reinforced by going back through this process, or maybe those things need to change. But what we can do in the will section is to assign tasks. So again, another existing Scorbody feature, we can add tasks. So obviously, will, these are specific actions we want to record that they've been committed to, and also be able to track whether they have been completed or not. So for Katie, join side by side with a Centre of Excellence agent for 1 hour. Get some data protection best practice in. We can pop in a description there. We can pop a due date. So our next coaching session is going to take place by, say on the 1st of June. We want that done by the 22nd, so they've got some time to absorb and put into practice and solidify and actualize the things they've learned on that side by side. And that's going to be a high priority for us. We pop that in as open. So we've got a task coming out of our coaching session, and we've got another one as well. So complete the GDPR learning that we assigned to them. So we could pop in a link there, in fact, if we wanted, a link direct to the learning management system. Pop a due date again, and this, we just want her to have completed it by the time of our next session. Or in fact, we want them to have a side-by-side. Let's think about that again, actually. And let's say we want them to have completed that before they have had the sit down side-by-side with a sort of Centre of Excellence agent. So I think those complement each other nicely in that order. So we'll say that's a medium priority one. The side-by-side is the one we think will have the biggest effect. We've got a task there. So now we've got our outcomes and our things for the agent to take away and do. Finally, we have our overall comment, and we can pop in here exactly what we feel. This is outside of the GROW model. As coaches, what you want to add that you don't think exists within the existing framework, or maybe you just want to give sort of an executive summary of what's been discussed. Okay, click add comment to add that in. And there we go. So if we were having a side-by-side with the agent, we might invite them to add their own comments to it. So we might not want to mark it complete as yet. We're going to have Katie add in her own 2 cents. So if we log out as Caitlin, I'm going to go and log in again as Katie and see what she sees. Okay, so here we are on Katie's dashboard. We can see that the goal we added in has been added to her goals. Tasks that we added in have been added to her tasks. And if we go to the appraisals page, she'll see her appraisals. She can go in and she can see that all wrapped together. The goals, reality, options, and will inputs that we made, our appraisal comments, and finally her own. Okay, and there we go. Caitlin would probably then return to that click complete and close that loop, ready to come back next month to see where we are. And this is the appraisal object. We hope that it fulfills the need that you guys have for coaching as an integral part of your quality process, and we hope that you can draw as much of that process into ScoreBuddy, that ScoreBuddy support that process as is possible. Well, thank you everyone for your time and attention. So look, my colleague Adam has been monitoring the chat for any questions which may have been posted. Adam, do we have any to answer?
Yes, there's a couple in there. So the first one is just asking, when is this feature available?
It is available already. So yeah, the employee appraisal was launched sort of a couple of months ago now, I think. There were some mail shots went out to inform people, but obviously not everyone is on the mailing lists. But yeah, this is currently available to ScoreBuddy users.
Brilliant. And then the next one in just asks if the agent requires dashboard access in order to be able to see their appraisals.
Yes, they would do. Obviously, as we saw there, the appraisal object is accessed via a link on the dashboard. So yeah, you would the agents would need to have their dashboards enabled for you to be able to use this function.
Brilliant. And then just the final question in there is just, is the appraisal period based off of the score date or the event date for the evaluations?
That's a very good question, and I didn't address that, did I? It is based off the score date. We have had some feedback that it would be desirable. Some people do use event date. It would be desirable to be able to sort of change that filter, and that's certainly a valuable bit of feedback, and it'll be something we'll consider in future. But for now, the date would represent the score date of the results that we're going to be drawn in and used in that result in the reality section.
Brilliant, and that's all the questions that have come in there today.
Fantastic. David, over to you.
Great, thanks Harry for fantastic slides and the demo that you prepared, and also Adam for answering those questions. Yeah, just to wrap up, hopefully everyone enjoyed the topic. Reminder that this session is being recorded, so it'll be sent out shortly. And also I did post a link into the coaching webinar that Harry alluded to during this demo. And I'll also include that in the follow-up email as well. So yeah, again, thanks everyone. Have a great day and hope to see you at our next webinar.